pay errands, pay bills. Strangely, because of the lockdown, finally all my bill payments are now done online, which I thought was, why did I do that in the first place? And it also allowed me to spend more time with my kids. And I think my children, they're so ecstatic that me and my husband are just at home. And I think that's really the message of the lockdown. It's actually telling humanity to please stop. And just like just like at the end of the rainbow, there's always a pot of gold. I know that, although I know that it's quite sad that a lot of people are suffering, but trying to be positive about our situation, I think we're really gaining more. That indeed, there's really nothing like staying home for real comfort, because that's where the real purpose of why we are here, which is to really spend time with our family, not going after the gold and honor outside, but is really establishing real bond, real time, real moments with our family. And that is what's really real in our lives. And back to you, Toastmaster Chappie.
Now let's give Toastmaster Bell a warm round of applause. Thank you. Well, you sounded really spontaneous there, and I know that your your answer came right out of experience. I mean, this ECQ is something so new to us that even just staying home for a couple of days makes us either really crazy or makes us tell ourselves, hey, I gotta be better than this. I gotta be bigger than this thing, right?
Yeah, right.
So thank you for that. Now we are on to our second topic. Is anybody up for another topic? All right. I need to see those hands up. All right. Are you up for another topic? Good. Good. The next topic for this portion is, hang on. Why is it? There you go. Again, this is from Jane Austen. Maybe Dante can tell from, but it says you must be the best judge of your own happiness.
Toastmaster Chuck, did you call me or someone else?
Of your own happiness. All right. Is there anybody who wants to answer this quotation? Somebody just chatted with me. All right. Anybody who wants to have a go at this? I see a new face here. And don't you think it's nice to hear from new faces other than royals? I see Z, Toastmaster Z. I think, do you want to have a go on this topic? Sure. All right. Let's give it up for Toastmaster Z.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Chappie, for this quote. Like, you must be the best judge of your own happiness. I could somehow resonate this in my own personal experience. Like, I've been running life, working for the past 15 years, and my happiness alone depends on the money I earn, the promotion that I am getting, and the fame, of course, within the company that my boss would be giving me. But then I realized that after working for 15 years, money is no longer a thing for me. It's because I feel the emptiness deep inside. For the past 15 years, I let go of the time and relationship that I am supposed to build with my family. Even let go of the seasons, even time of spending Christmas, New Year, birthday, any celebration that would lead me to really building a strong foundation in my family. So I quit after working for 15 years in different companies, office-based companies, and decided that I have to stop and focus on my happiness. And this has been the moment in time for the past 2 years that I was able to realize what my purpose in life is. Working on the things that would somehow satisfy me as a person and being able to provide the world the reason of my existence and being able to advocate for the things that would help people grow as a person, give me the sense of contentment and peace at the end of the day. And thus I realized that the best judge of my own happiness is not money, not the people around me, but me, myself, and I. So back to our table topics master.
Wow, you seem to say a lot. Your answer is really packed there. You talked about finding happiness, and then you talked about happiness, finding your purpose as something that is so important to you and so integral to you as a person, right? So you packed a lot of those things in just 1 minute and 20 seconds, all right? Wow, so much wisdom, right? Okay, who's ready for another topic, another quote by Jane Austen? The next quotation is, "My courage always rises at every attempt to intimidate me." My courage always rises at every attempt to intimidate me. Is there anybody who wants to talk about this topic? I see a lot of very thoughtful looks. Somebody who wants to take a jab at this? Let's hear from a gentleman this time, right? Can we hear from Joel, Toastmaster Joel?
Can I say no? Right. Okay.
That would be so really not courageous of you to do so, but what the heck?
Okay. I'll muster up myself. My sister's here, by the way. She's been nudging me to answer, so I will.
All right.
Okay. Give me a moment, maybe 2 moments.
Take all the time you need, man.
But okay. May sagot ka? Okay.
So to help you, you can always go back to somebody who you think has shown so much courage, even though the intimidation thrown his way or her way.
It's okay. It's okay. My sister's just being she's teasing me, but because it's been a while since I've answered the table topics, but I'll try to answer this.
Go ahead.
I think I'll start by saying that I truly think that courage is a skill. It is developed, it is maintained, and it is grown. I never thought that it would be like this. I never thought that courage by definition would be something that I'd have to foster. But it seems that courage, or at least my very own, would only show up when there was something in front of me, whether that something was something that was trying to set me back, trying to pull me down, or even trying to push me forward. I found out that my courage, for me personally, again, was very situational. This wasn't, no one taught me about courage. No one told me to be courageous. I wasn't told in school or anywhere else to, hey, stand up for yourself. But then over college, specifically towards the end of my studies, I was pushed to make a decision. Run as the president or do something else. And so I knew this was going to be such a big challenge. A lot of people were against it, although a lot others were for it. It was very intimidating, a big responsibility and a big task. But then I've lived so much and I've experienced so much that at that very moment when I was asked, all the other times where I was challenged, all the courage I built up from all those moments just stacked up into that one moment. And I chose to run. And so I thought that made sense. Courage had to be a skill, had to be fostered, had to be maintained. And I never knew it could grow so big. And back to you, Table Topics Master.
Awesome. I am so amazed at how quickly you were able to define what courage is. And you did not just give us one definition, but you gave us layers of it. Like, it has to be developed, it has to be maintained, it has to be grown. So, wow, I've learned a lot from that speech as well. So we have one more topic from Jane Austen, and I hope I'm not depriving anybody of an opportunity to answer a quote or to expound on the quote by our Toastmaster of the evening's favorite author. So I'm just going to read this last quotation, and if there's anybody who feels that he or she has to share about this topic, then please raise your hand, shoot your hand up in the air, and yeah, begin. So the last topic is, this is nice. There is no charm equal to tenderness of heart. There is no charm equal to tenderness of heart. Is anybody out there who wants to answer this? Do we have other royals who would care to share his or her wisdom on this nugget from Jane Austen? All right, Toastmaster Miko, take it away.
Hello, thank you, Toastmaster Chappy. Okay, good evening, everyone. So, there is no charm equal to tenderness of heart. I think that the perfect example of this is someone who became a victim of mob mentality due to the tenderness of his heart. And that person that I'm talking about is Jesus Christ. Especially in those times when all Jesus really was doing when he was alive on earth was spreading his good word and helping people out. And that didn't that's precisely the reason that he gained so many followers. He never asked anybody to follow him, but people decided to follow him because they saw him. They saw the tenderness of his heart. But the people who failed to recognize that, or the people in the mob who was actually oppressing him, were actually those who didn't understand or weren't even open to his teachings. Now, I see that this is something that is even prominent to this day. Sometimes people with good intentions are villainized for whatever reason. People decide to villainize their government when they're trying to do their job. People try to villainize those who are asking for donations, thinking that they're stealing from the public. And even despite all of these difficulties or these trials, people who have that tender heart is still able to move through the society and is still able to inspire others to continue their cause. Thank you. Back to you, Toastmaster of the evening.
All right, thank you. What an amazing example that you brought up there. No other than the most perfect, well, the perfect person ever on this planet, Jesus, right? So I just saw a chat from our dear president asking if our guests, we do have a lot of guests, right? If our guests would want to share their thoughts on any of the topic. So Marty, I know you're there. I know you can hear me. Is
Yes,
there
I
any
can.
topic that you would want to talk about for this evening? Any topic
Among
that we,
the quotes
yes,
that were presented, or can I answer for this?
yes, you
Can I
can.
can I answer?
Whatever that you want to, whatever quotation you want to expound on. Go ahead. Just tell me what it is. Is it the last one?
Can I go back to the last one?
Sure. All
Okay.
right. Let's give it up for Marty.
By the way, before I start, thank you very much for having me as a guest. It's amazing to be part of this pool of people who are very passionate with learning more about public speaking. So anyway, Miss Chappie, can you put back the quote to the previous screen just so I can read it again? The about the courage. Okay. All right, here goes. Bear with me. This is my first time here in Toastmasters. So okay. I clearly remember before I started pursuing the course that I graduated in, I took up engineering. And it was so funny how I found myself in a course, even if I wasn't really that well accustomed to math. We had a lot of quizzes, of course, like any students, you get to class, you get quizzes, then you get to your departmental's exam. And I remember clearly how there was this one subject in calculus where we had our departmental's exam. We ought to answer it and pass just like everyone else. And then the class ended up with all students gathering around and answering that certain number where all of them were collating and just helping each other figuring out the answer. And there was me looking at them. I'm sorry for my dog. There was me looking at them wondering why did all of them get the same answer and I didn't. And I remember clearly one classmate of mine told me I didn't get it because I was stupid. And this really changed me because I came to think, why am I staying in something I don't feel really powerful? And in that moment on, that opted me to really tell my mom to allow me to take the course that I really wanted. That was mass communication. And since then on, I did not feel as much power as following my passion and following the steps that I really wanted to take. When I was in mass communication, I already started to excel in my academics. I became president of student council, and right now I think everything that I've learned in mass communication really made me a better employee in the marketing industry right now. Going back to this quotation about courage rising in every attempt to intimidate me, the moment that I was called stupid, that was a moment that intimidated me. And from then on, I realized that I'll not allow anyone to actually put me down just because I'm not good at what they're good at or I don't know exactly what they're talking about. So anyhow, I think my story or anyone's story about courage would inspire others, that would push us to really rise even though we're being put down, and that even in misery we can always find light. So that I think intimidation can be a source of power. Thank you. Back to you, Toastmasters.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm really scared to see, I didn't want to see the red light going up, because I had fun listening to you. And I like the fact that you somehow equated the word courage with the word power. And it is true, if you have courage, you seem to have some sort of power in you. So thank you for reminding us of that.
Thank you.
All right. I think we don't have time anymore to do one more topic, but I just really want to share this because I've only started reading Jane Austen only during the ECQ. Hang on, I don't know how to work this, right? And so I began this small initiative. Permit me to do a little bit of, shout out. We started a group called Storytelling Live, wherein we just would read to each other stories of inspiring stories, right? And so my book report or my assigned reading is a book written by Jane Austen, and that is Persuasion. If you want to hear stories written by Jane Austen, please do join this little band of storytellers that we have at Storytelling Live. It's at Facebook. Having said that, I had such a great time listening to your little speeches. And back to the Toastmaster of the evening, Toastmaster Dante.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Chappie. Distinguished Toastmaster Chappie. And a round of applause for those distinguished Toastmaster Chappie and for everyone who volunteered or who were volunteered to answer those questions. Those were really awesome. And let me comment, by the way, on the presentation, the slide deck. It's so Austen-esque, very Austen-like. The China, the font, is so great. And it really shows the courage of the speakers who volunteered to speak or who were volunteered. That shows you the courage that they had to answer those questions, and also shows you the relevance of an 18th century writer like Austen in this day and age. So awesome. All right, so we will now proceed to the prepared speeches portion with our second speaker. And let me give you my first impression of her. So when I first saw and heard Toastmaster Priya, I was really so impressed with her confidence and her command of the language. She had a great command of the language. She was so confident, she had presence, and she was so smart. So I was so impressed and excited every time she spoke on stage. And she's also, she has competed in many levels in Toastmaster. So it's really a privilege and a pleasure to see her every time. So Toastmaster Priya will be, she's actually a visionary communicator level 4 speaker. And she will be delivering a speech entitled Above and Beyond. It's level 5, project 1 of the visionary communication path. And let me just quickly read the purpose of the speech. One moment. Right, so the purpose of this speech or this project is to develop a detailed vision of the speaker's personal life, professional life, or organization. So her speech, her allotted time is 5 to 7 minutes, and she will be evaluated by distinguished Toastmaster Mariam Soliano afterwards. So friends, please help me welcome Visionary Communicator Level 4, Priya Chongbian.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I just like to check, can everyone hear me? Yeah? Hold on, let me share my screen for a while.
Oh, Toastmaster Chappie, you're still there? I think you need to unshare your screen so that Toastmaster Priya can share hers. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Hold on. Okay, so my speech for tonight is basically to share with you a little gist about my vision, and it's going to be more focused on how or what are the goals and tasks that I am supposed to take or to accomplish for me to be able to bring my vision to fruition. So Fundamentals Pediatric Therapy Center, going above and beyond. Now, a little or a short background. Fundamental Pediatric Therapy Center is a therapy center that offers therapy services, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and physical therapy services to children with special needs. All right. We also do school readiness programs, which is basically a preschool simulation and community integration, wherein we bring these clients into the community and help them work within the community independently. So probably do shopping, among other things. Now, the primary mode of service delivery in therapy centers is what we call contact therapy session. It's when we are with our clients either on a one-on-one basis or in a group session, and then we teach them, we handle them. Other than that, we have home and school observations. We either go to their houses or we go to their schools and observe them while they are there. And then parent-teacher consultations when we speak with the parents or their teachers to address whatever their problems are in school, how we can help and what we can add to our services or in our plans within the therapy sessions. But then COVID-19 happened, and thus it made contact therapy sessions impossible. Because of that, we had to transition to work from home. It's quite difficult because how would you work from home when 95% of our job entails us having to be able to talk to the kids directly, hold them, help them hold a pencil, among other things. But we have our teletherapy sessions, basically like our meetings or one-on-one video call. We give the activities to the parents and it's the parents doing it. And we have the weekly provision of activities and feedback of outputs. So we give a set of worksheets to the parents, and then the parents take videos or photos of it, and then they send it to us. We give our feedback as to how they can do the next set of worksheets better. So these are the few things that we came up with when we transitioned from contact therapy sessions to work from home. But there are a lot of challenges. First is the limit. We are limited to current home equipment. Houses were not built to become therapy centers. Houses were built to be houses. And I'm sure some of the parents who transitioned into homeschool would understand how difficult or how different it is. I mean, we have a few things at home, but it's not the same. We are limited to the handling capabilities of the parents. Now, for our degree, we had to study as to where we hold the kids when we have them do somersaults or the wheelbarrows, and how we physically manipulate their bodies to be able to give manual guidance in teaching handwriting. These are the things that are quite difficult to teach, or perhaps a little more concrete would be deep pressure massages for relaxation. Pressure strength is very subjective. So my not so strong might be strong for a parent or a mom who has a smaller belt than I do. So these are the things, these are the things that make the capabilities of the parents limited. Another challenge is it's not available for all clients. Why? I'm only offering this to clients whose parents are there during the therapy sessions. Because if it's the yayas bringing them in and out, we don't get the chance to fully communicate to the parents during contact therapy sessions. So I'm not very confident with how safely and how well they can carry over at home without that kind of consultation relationship within the center. Lastly, therapist experience is near zero, and thus we are engaging in trial and error. Even I have been in this industry for over 5 years now, but I have zero experience in teletherapy sessions. But the parents are aware that this is a trial and error, and they're fully willing to engage in it anyway. It's better than none, as they say. Which brings me to a new vision of Fundamentals Pediatric Therapy Center. And it is to pioneer and publish the integrated teletherapy service. That is the new vision. And the usual flow for goals for new services are to start with needs assessment, do the research, craft the model, and then go with assessment, implementation, reassessment, and revision cycle, and then publication. But because of the COVID-19, we directly went to implementation with very little research in this field or in this service delivery. And so when all of this is over and we can finally go back to work, I get to see my kids again. I miss them so much. Here are the goals and tasks that I have to accomplish to achieve this vision. All, again, will commence after the pandemic, or at least when ECQ is lifted. The first short-term goal is to be able to implement an informal but documented survey regarding the experiences during the teletherapy session within 3 months post-ECQ. So the parents or the clients that I have been doing teletherapy sessions with, I will be communicating with them. And here are the specific tasks involved. Continuous service planning, implementation, and revision, even when we are allowed to do contact therapy sessions already. Collaborate with these parents for their feedback so we can revise accordingly, and provide free integrated teletherapy sessions as a basis for research. And it will be explained later on for this specific task. Next short-term goal is to implement a formal survey on the awareness and interest of other parents on teletherapy services within 3 months post ECQ. So for the parents who did not avail of this service, or the parents to whom I did not offer this service to, as I mentioned earlier, I will be providing information about the services Now, those are just the short-term goals to get the ball rolling. Now, here are the long-term goals. First is to conduct a study on the lived experiences of therapists and clients during the teletherapy service provision within 1 year post ECQ. The tasks involved are finding co-authors of the study. So Toastmaster John, I love you. I need co-authors for this study. And gather colleagues for support and push. I know myself, and when things get going, I usually just bail out. So co-authors and colleagues are the key people who would make sure that I accomplish this research. Next is do preliminary research and go through related articles. The Philippine Academy of Occupational Therapy and World Federation already have their guidelines set. So these are a few of the articles that we can, or I can go through. And next is to implement the entire research or the entire study. And last long-term goal is to create the integrated teletherapy service guidelines for implementation within 1 year following the completion of the research I mentioned earlier. So there are more tasks, but first is to use the results of the research as a baseline for consideration of the guidelines. Next is for the guidelines to go through peer review, the drafting and practice implementation of these guidelines, the revisions, publishing, and hopefully maybe we can patent this specific set of guidelines. And that's about it for the goals and tasks for me to be able to achieve this vision. So after the enhanced community quarantine or the lockdowns, we just want to go back to normal. But what will be the new norm following all of these? Well, as for Fundamentals Pediatric Therapy Center, it's going above and beyond. Toastmaster of the evening.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Priya. It's a great speech. Love that. Rachel, one of the great qualities of a great leader is to have a clear vision of where he or she wants to go. It's really great. It also shows how resilient you are in adapting to the crisis that we're facing right now. All right, so we will now proceed to the next portion of the program. But before I do that, let me first acknowledge new guests who just joined us. We have Chris Patong. I think also Lloyd. I saw Lloyd earlier as well. Is he still here? Yeah, Lloyd and Chris and all of our guests. Welcome. Please make yourselves at home. All right, so now we will proceed to the next portion, which is the evaluation portion. I will now be introducing the general evaluator. Let me give you my first impression of her. This is actually my first time to see her in the camera, and we were not friends before. I hope we're friends now. But my first impression of Toastmaster Z is that I went to her. I asked Toastmaster Miko if Z is in Facebook, and I went to her Facebook page, and I saw that she had lots of pictures about nature. So I think my impression of her is that she's someone who loves nature, who loves adventure and activities, going out there, doing stuff. And that's actually relevant as well to Austen, since Jane Austen also loved nature. In fact, one of her quotes that I really love is this. She said, "What are men to rocks and mountains?" So that shows you how passionate she is about nature. All right, so a bit more detail about Toastmaster Z, Pono. She is an advanced communicator gold, advanced leadership bronze, and a motivational strategies proficient speaker. She is, as you have heard earlier, the president of Viva Sugbo Toastmaster. She loves books. She loves dogs. And I guessed right, she's a backpacker and wanderer. She's into paddling, trekking, hiking, mountain climbing. And she's also a process engineer, project manager, and systems architect for multinational companies in the States and in Europe. So, friends, help me welcome Toastmaster Pono.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Dan. Surely after this meeting, I will add you in Facebook so we could somehow make this friendship more official while we are still in ECQ. So I would like to thank Toastmaster John, Toastmaster Miko for having me here tonight with you. I'm really very excited. It has been quite long. I think the last time I was in Queen City was in September of 2019, wherein I was also the GE. But then I miss Queen City meetings and Toastmasters. So the theme tonight is really very challenging for me. I haven't heard about this author, Jane Austen. In fact, after Toastmaster Miko sent me the program in Facebook, I Googled that's the benefit of having an online meeting because you have a lot of resources and you can somehow ask Google who, what, and where. So, and I was just pretty amazed of who Jane Austen is. In fact, my evaluation tonight is something that would somehow resonate to the theme, and I hope that I'm not an expert of poetry or even to this kind of novel, but according to her book Persuasion, time will explain. So I will be using my time as a your general evaluator to explain some points that I think we could improve on, give feedback, and somehow provide some recommendations that we could somehow use in our next meeting. So I would like to start with our preliminaries. So for the declaration of the hall ready, ably done by Toastmaster Joel, it was really warm and homey, not only because we are at the comfort of our home, but I felt that I am really welcome. In fact, Toastmaster Joel provided us with some points on what to expect on this meeting. And Toastmaster Joel, if I may suggest some areas to improve on, that is to somehow include some meeting reminders. For me, that is really very important, especially if we are on an online meeting. Like we could somehow cite that please switch your mobile phones in silent mode, or when you are not speaking, please mute your microphones or anything related to that, because it would somehow remind the members on these things that are really very important, not to bother the meeting or anyone or the speaker who is giving out his or her speech. But Toastmaster Joel, you were able to do your job well tonight, so congratulations on that. And I'd like to move on with the call to order, ably done by Toastmaster John, the president, a good friend, who's really very smiling here in cam. So Toastmaster John, your introduction was so informative, and it was able to provide me a lot of information about the theme, who the author is, and why we had this meeting tonight. In fact, I was pretty amazed because I am not sure if you are an avid reader of this genre, but it really amazed me that you did a lot of research about Jane Austen. And I am also pretty amazed with how you were able to emphasize and exercise your role as a president. Because in the absence of a gavel, we could somehow thing in our desk as a president, but you were able to use your hands and clap it twice to somehow warn or signal everyone that the meeting is about to start. So moving on with the acknowledgement of our guest by Toastmaster Miko. Good thing that you were able to start with introducing our non-Toastmasters guest. And for the benefit of our non-Toastmaster guest, Marty, who is soon to be a royal, soon to be a Toastmaster, it is really very important to acknowledge our non-Toastmaster guest, because without you, there would be no members. We all started to be non-Toastmasters, and each and every guest, regardless of who you are and where you come from, is always something that would give the meeting the warmth, the value, and the worth why we are doing this. So Toastmaster Miko, I commend you for doing that. And if I may suggest one point for improvement, if you are going to introduce a Toastmaster guest, is not to forget to mention the norm of that person. So I just noticed, even if I'm just the only guest tonight, but in cases where there are a lot of guests in a meeting, please do not forget to mention the norms. And then the sequence would be something that would start from the person who has the highest rank, say the district officer, going down to the membership of the person in his or her respective club. But congratulations, Toastmaster Miko, you were able to do your job perfectly, almost perfect tonight. Next is the invocation, which is also done by you. It's non-ecumenical. In fact, I felt that it's something that I miss hearing from the masses because we're not allowed to go out. I just felt that you are also bleeding deep inside because earlier we were talking about COVID. I mean, the two of us are exchanging our thoughts about COVID, and I can feel from my end that you are really passionate in helping the country and everyone around us solve this in your own little way. In fact, you even shared to us that you're also doing some things to help the government by supplying a lot of so thank you for that. And for the national anthem, this is very unique because this is the first time in an online meeting that we do not sing our national anthem. And for me, it's really very awkward to sing a national anthem because I am living in a place where everyone is not allowed to have a boisterous sound after 8 p.m. So there are militaries roaming around our place right now. In fact, if they hear you talk in a voice that is like disturbing, they can knock at your door and issue you a ticket. So it's really difficult here in Mandaue. That's how Mandaue City is handling things here. But I love that in in a Toastmaster meeting, you were able to have us recite a Toastmaster promise, even if we are not in unison, maybe because of the internet connection, but it somehow refreshes us on the reason why we are here for tonight. It somehow reminds us of our commitment to Toastmasters. So maybe it could inspire members who are not here tonight to join next meeting, because that is something also as a Toastmaster that even if we are living in a world where everyone is somehow self-isolating, but our Toastmaster journey doesn't stop or end here. So congratulations, Toastmaster Miko, for that. So for the word of the night, ably done by Toastmaster Joanne, which I miss this person because the last time I saw you, that was like second quarter of last year. Thank you for
Miss you
for
too.
for a creative word. It is really very engaging, and I felt the challenge because you asked everyone to guess the word. So I was also thinking on my seat right now what the word is, because it's 11 letters starting from C and then it ends with this word. So I have to Google, but somehow Google failed me this time around. So I love that you were able to introduce us this word. It's really very unique. It's not being used by everyone day by day. In fact, it would help in my suggestion, and this will also be a recommendation moving forward, if you could give us the synonyms and antonyms of this word, because it's a unique word, but the antonym of this one. But congratulations and thank you, because you were able to use your profession as a um, can I consider you as a ninja programmer in what this word is. And I hope to hear more unique and engaging words from you in the future. So before I move on with my next evaluation, I would like to give the the time for the speech evaluators to somehow provide their inputs on the two speakers. So I would like to start with the evaluator for our first speaker is no other than competent communicator Joel Emmanuel Soliano to evaluate Toastmaster Gary Watin. So after Toastmaster Joel, please call Toastmaster Mariam, and then please give it the time back to me.
Okay. Thank you, Toastmaster Z. Right. Good evening again, everyone, and good evening to Toastmaster Gary. Is it? Hello. Okay. What a from starting from a laid-back high school to a somewhat frustrated short time in college to now a life of passionate learning and growth. I truly enjoyed listening to your speech, although this is not the first time I listened to your speech, but still, this one was still entertaining. So, your speech was humorous, it was surprising, and it was and all the while your story felt very real. You delivered it in a way that I, as part of the audience, felt as if it were just a conversation, just a normal exchanging of this is my life, this is how I've been. You were highly expressive, you were honest and comfortable with speaking. Even though you were kind of half kidding with your statements, still there was a sense of being transparent with it. There was a sense of being genuine. And then I like that you mentioned specifically that you graduated from Don Bosco and entering college, you were searching kind of for that which you did not have much of in high school. Girls. It was quick. And I still felt like it was a display of again transparency that while it added humor, it also made me feel at ease listening to you and made me feel ready to accept more of what you had to say because at that point it was very easy to absorb what you were sharing with us. Your speech was great overall. It was good and you spoke like a natural speaker. To further your skills, I'd recommend that you explore pauses. Pauses, when used the right way, increase your impact of what you want to say and allow the audience time to absorb that statement. Or it could be anything like a question or a comment or maybe just something you'd like to share. Since speaking is very different from reading, pausing would also help regulate the pace of your speech so that you wouldn't be too fast when you're sharing your ideas or when you're speaking. And then it's a good thing to remember that people can read much quicker than they can listen. So and my recommendation for you is to explore the use of pauses to bring your impact really to strengthen your impact, sorry, and then give people time to catch up with what you're trying to say. Overall, your speech had a very solid structure. There was a flow to it, almost natural, and I found that it was heartfelt and filled with genuine emotion. It was truly relatable. Your speech also was warm and truly humble while being honest and candid to your personality. Do carry on with your journey with Toastmasters. I hope that with Queen City, you can find your next life enhancing event. I'm glad that you found your heart's desires, and it sounds like you have no compunctions at all. You were truly inspiring tonight. Congratulations, Toastmaster. That's it for my evaluation. I will now turn you over to distinguished Toastmaster Mariam Justin Soliano for. And since we're in the same room, we can do this.
All right. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Good evening as well, Toastmaster Priya. I think I say that I'd like to us, but what we do. And as for children, with children, what we do is the greatest impact. The more with your profession, Toastmaster Priya, when sensorial is nothing but necessary. Therefore, Toastmaster Priya, I understand the challenge. I feel you when it comes to the struggle at this time. I think you could say that at a certain degree, the situation crippled us. But the learning and the services has to continue for the sake of the children. And I could feel the passion behind the the program or the program that you want to develop. Now, to your speech, I'll say it's very structured. You started with the background and the primary mode of your service, which provide us the ideal scenario of your service. Then you gave us the challenges, which is very true. Then you gave us the goal, which is the integrated teletherapy services guidelines. Then you proceeded with what you say the goal task. So when it comes to your goal, when it comes to your speech goal, you have done everything. I think what I can share with you is I understand that this is still experimental, still ongoing, if I'm not mistaken. So I could share with you our experience. We have our own program. We call it DLHP. And I think to understand, create a core group of people who will be there to support the teachers, or in your case, the therapists, a fixed core group of people that could also be there to limit the stress level, especially that we are in the also the stress level is really inconceivable at this time. That's a big help for the program and for the therapies as well. I think the 5 to 7 minutes is really not enough to explain the details and the comprehensive work that goes in creating a program, and to know that this is something new. We don't have any guidelines at all if it is effective or not. There's a lot of things that is in this still, but I really appreciate the the initiative to work on this, because this is something that we need to do, especially that the situation that we have right now is something that we cannot predict. Who knows, as you mentioned, where we will be after this and what will then be the norm after this. So if there's anything to help, I think for those who are not really familiar, photos would help differentiate the service, the scenario, the ideal scenario, and what it is right now, what is the norm right now, could also be a help for those who cannot really understand the troubles that I think therapies or teachers alike are experiencing right now. But beyond that, I say I am with you. If there's anything that you would need, I think we could help each other, especially if it's really for the children. So keep on doing what you need to do, okay? Oh, for now, I'll now bring it to our general evaluator.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Mariam, for that. So I would like to give my evaluation for the one that introduced our Toastmaster of the evening, Toastmaster Bell. You were full of love and life when you introduced your better half, because you were able to come up with a personalized introduction that led me to Jane Austen's book, Emma. Your charm tonight introduced your better and best, and it equals to the tenderness of your heart in it. So I commend you, because not only someone who was with you through thick and thin, but you were able to give us a glimpse of who Toastmaster Dan is. You were able to cite that he's a good writer, what are his likes, and what are the things that he is passionate about. So I would like to encourage you to somehow continue doing what you're doing tonight, and I am really excited because maybe next time you'll no longer be the one introducing the Toastmaster of the evening, but maybe you would be the Toastmaster of the evening. So congratulations for a job well done. So with that, I would like to call Toastmaster Miko to evaluate Toastmaster Chappie for the table topics.
All right. Thank you, Z. All right. Good evening again to everyone. So My task as the table topics evaluator, especially for our non-Toastmaster guests, as you can see, everything, absolutely everything in Toastmasters is evaluated by somebody, and sometimes it's done in chunks. So for me, I will be evaluating all of our participants for our table topics portion, as well as let's get to it because I don't have enough time. Right. So I actually decided on a side note, let me digress. I actually decided to write down my notes because I think that especially in these times of quarantine, we're really using our computers a lot, that we may forget how we could even forget what our own handwriting looks like. So I decided to write down my notes for this evening. All right. So let's go to the first quotation. The first quotation was answered by quotation. Sorry, Miss Chappie. The first table topics quotation was, there is nothing like staying at home for real comfort. And this was answered by Toastmaster Bell. Toastmaster Bell told all of us an example about, especially the circumstance right now, that she has never before left her house for has never stayed in her house for 32 days, was it? And it's actually a different experience. Like, she also talked about how she's paying her bills in a different way, and it can even bring to us the idea that, why did I even pay my bills manually when I could have actually just been paying it online at the same time. I think that goes to show that even in the times of this crisis, there's really something that we can learn, and there's also a positive outlook on how we look at things. So thank you for that speech, Toastmaster Bell. All right, let's go to our next quotation. You must be the judge of your own happiness. And this was answered by Toastmaster Z. And she shared to us a very personal story about her own life and her own career. When she talked about that she was working for 15 years, she was very passionate in her work. And what made her happy, or the standard in which we compare happiness to, was the amount of income that we earn. And after 15 years of working, she tells us that when we even take a step back, we realize that it's not money that made him important, but it was actually developing this kind of things that we neglected, like that connection with family, that learning to care about ourselves, our own emotions, rather than just pursuing that dollar bill. And I think that we can agree that this struck a chord with everyone, or I can't speak in behalf of everyone, but I can say for sure that it really struck a chord with me, that a lot of times we try to focus on things that we try to focus on work, and we just keep working even though we're burnt out. We forget to check whether or not we are still with the goal that we started off, that we had, or we forget to check ourselves if we're even enjoying what we're doing anymore. So thank you, Toastmaster Z, for sharing that very personal story. I'm sure a lot of people can relate and can learn from that. Next, Toastmaster Joel shared to us, everyone always misses at every attempt to intimidate me. And Toastmaster Joel shared to us. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Toastmaster Joel, I was actually under him as a student in CIT in his term as president for our supreme student government. And that was the experience that he was talking about in his table topics portion. He was talking about how his experience before becoming the president, and leading up to rise to the challenge of being that, especially that even in his own eyes, it's really a challenge that he wasn't sure that he was going to take on. But he told us that his courage was able to take on that opportunity, and look at him now. did become the president in that organization. By the way, I also met Toastmaster Joe. So Toastmaster Joe is all about communication, and that skill is something that we need to learn to develop. And sometimes we fail to recognize that it's something that we can really develop on our own, in our own pace and in our own way. Some of us really stay afraid, and that's not really a way to live our lives. And thank you for bringing that example to life. So thank you, Toastmaster Joel, for that table topics answer. All right, I'm gonna skip evaluating myself and and then I'm going to evaluate our guest Marty. Our soon to be Toastmaster Marty, answered the same quotation by Toastmaster Joel on courage and rising at every attempt to intimidate her. And I think this can really strike a chord with people who have definite goals in their life. So she was challenged by a classmate telling her that you're too stupid to answer in this class. And I think that this can actually be a bit reminiscent also of Toastmaster Gary's story earlier in his icebreaker, when he talked to us about not being very passionate about his first course in college, and then he eventually moved to a course and he did better in that course. And she also was enrolled in originally in a course that she didn't really like, and then she moved to a course, and in that course that she did excel. So when our courage, it really pushes us to do to improve ourselves. It rises up when we're when we're intimidated. So thank you for sharing your story, Toastmaster Marty. And I hope to talk to you guys soon about signing up to be a Toastmaster. All right, I'm running out of time. I'm going to evaluate our table topics master for this evening. So thank you, Toastmaster Chappie, for actually agreeing to be our table topics master for this evening. I was actually really wondering who would be a good fit to be a table topics master for this evening. And I couldn't think of anyone else considering the theme that we have in mind. I think it was very innovative that not only did you take the time to really research quotes from Jane Austen, you're actually also reading Jane Austen. Or I'm not sure if it's about the theme or it was just a coincidence that you're also reading Jane Austen at this time. But I think it was really apparent that you knew enough about the author to bring her quotes into the table topics portion. You also have a lot of her books in your personal library. Thank you for showing us your books. And I think I'll skip to the parts where we think we can improve. I think that we spent a bit too much time, especially on the first quotation, when you didn't want to call somebody to really take part in the table topics portion, hoping that someone would really volunteer. But I think that especially for the interest of time, maybe people are more interested to volunteer maybe when the first person is voluntold to speak. So I think it's a very nitpick, a very peculiar set of what you call it, a comment. But I think that we could have really improved in that time. But at the same time, the tip that I can give to you is something that I actually saw from a different club, that instead of like the reason we don't want to volunteer somebody else is because we kind of feel guilty about volunteering people to speak. So okay,
Not really, not really,
some
not
of
really.
us feel guilty. Okay, I feel a bit guilty when I do that. But another for a different club, what they did is that every person who's in the meeting, they actually entered all of their names into an online name shuffler, and that when no one is going to volunteer to speak, they just pull a name out of that website. And there are lots of websites where you can just type in the entire list of names and it will randomize somebody. So it because we know, especially as Toastmasters, that there's really a time that we need someone needs to be voluntold. So at the very least, in the interest of time, we can actually use that thing that not only is it also more timely in this time, that's the only time we can actually use that alternative. But I think it makes it more interesting because it's also like a roulette on who's going to be able to speak. I also appreciate, this is my last comment. I also like to appreciate that whenever you're the table topics master, you always try to incorporate someone that we haven't heard from in a while, compared to just anyone who volunteers. Like the first person that you called on was Miss Bell, who hasn't done a table topics portion in a while, and our last table topics participant was also a guest. I think
Well,
that's very unique, and
because she loves Austin. I know she loves Austin, and
so yeah, that's it. So thank you, Toastmaster Chappie. I think you really showed us tonight why you're a distinguished Toastmaster, and I look forward to seeing you in different roles in the future. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Miko. So I would like to call my tag. So I just got this tag from Floor Toastmaster tab because I was also invited. I think it was like 2 days ago, Toastmaster John, right? So I am used to calling them tag, but now I'll be calling my tag team. So I'd like to start with Toastmaster John, our grammarian, followed by Toastmaster Eprilin as our counter, and of course Chappie, who is our timer, and whose background is already guys with green, yellow, and red. So take it away,
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Z.
a time.
Here. I take notes of germs or errors in pronunciations and grammar, and gems or highlights of the use of the English language over the course of the meeting. So, for the first portion of my report, I'd like to commend a few people who used the very unique word of the night. And during the word of the night, we had Toastmaster Miko and Toastmaster Chappie. And during the course of the meeting and the other segments, I heard Toastmaster Joel use the word of the night. And I hope I missed so that there was more. But I do encourage the people to use it more also, not inside and outside of the meeting. Now for the germs on pronunciations, I think this is the most common error that we need to remind ourselves constantly. It's the word quote or quotation. So it was usually mentioned as quote or quotation, and better said as quote. The combination of the two vowels must be emphasized, the U and the O. And I also heard someone who mentioned villainize. I felt that villainize is a jargon, meaning it's not an technically correct word in the dictionary. So I think it would have been better said as criticize, ostracize, or could be a phrase influence negatively. Another person said, I couldn't tell my father, it feel terrible. I think it's better said as I couldn't tell my father, it feels terrible, or terrible, or it felt terrible, noting the subject verb agreement. Then someone also said, what my purpose in life is, what are my passion. I think it is better said as what my purpose in life is, what my passion in life is, to observe format of the phrases. And you gave us the challenges, which is very true. I think it's better said as you gave us the challenges which are or which were very true, noting the tense and the proper number of the words. Now for the gems, I like it when Toastmaster Miko said, let's give a round of reactions instead of let's give a round of applause. And I also like it when Toastmaster Dante oriented us when he said Jane likes conversations, quality time, reading books, listening to music, spending time with God. Moreover, the importance of thinking, writing, and speaking well in relation to Toastmasters. I also like to commend Toastmaster Miko when he said, people decided to follow him or Jesus because they saw the tenderness of his heart. And from Toastmaster Marty, future Toastmaster Marty when she said, "Courage pushes us to really rise, even if we are being down." So I like the oxymoron rise and pull down. Very, very contrasting, but very impactful. And when Toastmaster Miriam quoted Sense and Sense when she said, "It isn't what we say that defines us, it's what we do." So that's it for my report. Congratulations to everyone. And I really had fun being here, Grammarian, tonight. And as a closing note, I just would like to say, let's build that sensibility or that passion on improving our knowledge and usage of the English language so that as Toastmasters, we will not have that compunction in the end. Thank you. And I'd like to call on our counter Toastmaster Miko.
All right. Thank you, Toastmaster John. I actually already forwarded this part to Aprilyn, but I'll just read it again if I didn't cut up that paper. For the preliminaries, I remember that mostly it was my error. So for the invocation and the introduction of guests, it was two us for the introduction and the invocation. There are a couple of in or pauses in between the prayer. Next was the word of the night, and also Toastmaster Gary's icebreaker speech. For the word of the night, I was actually for this part of the program, I can say that I was very intrigued. I was very intrigued by Toastmaster Jones' creative use of the word of the night portion that I actually forgot to note any mistakes. So I also forwarded it to April, and there was actually nothing that I took note of as and oms in that part. I think this is more important to note, especially in Toastmasters meetings, because especially when our attention our attention is really with the speaker, it means that those crutches they're already covered. They're not noticeable when we're interested in how that speaker speaks. I think that this is actually something that's also very impressively done by Toastmaster Gary. Just like in Toastmaster Joe's evaluation, the speech was very honest. He spoke very naturally in front, or as there's no in front because we're not in a room, but as he was speaking, as he was telling his story in his first speech, it felt like I was very connected with Sir Gary. It felt like I was there in the room with him, and I also didn't really notice any uh, us or ums when he was speaking. So that's it for the time that I was taking note of the us and ums, and I'm gonna pass you to Aprilyn.
Thank you, Toastmaster Miko, for the first part of the counter report. So I'll uh, I'll give the report now. So for the I think okay, I'll just run through for the names here so that you will know if you committed some us or repeated words. So for the benefit of our guests, the purpose of the counter is to note any overused words or filler sounds used as a crutch by anyone who speaks during the meeting. So words may be inappropriate interjections such as and, well, but, and so, and you know. So sounds maybe or So as your counter, I'll take note. I take noted on that one. So let me start with Toastmaster Joel. You had two us only. Toastmaster Miko, you had three us, one that repeated word that, one two so, and five all right. All right, the word all right is your favorite word for tonight. And Toastmaster Marty, soon to be Toastmaster member, you had only one ohms. And for our speakers, Toastmaster Priya, you had one one repeated word okay, and one so. And then our evaluator, Toastmaster Mariam, you had Toastmaster members, I think congratulations because I don't have any report of any awesome. So congratulations because maybe you're perfect for tonight. So for those who committed these words, let's improve ourselves during our meeting next time. Okay, I think that's all for the report for the counter. I'll turn over you to our timer for tonight. Our timer is Toastmaster Nancy.
Yeah, thank you for that, Toastmaster Aprilin. For the benefit of time, it's almost 9:30. But for the report of the time right now, we have both our prepared speech went overtime. All our evaluators went overtime. And for the table topics, we have three that weren't overtime and two which were overtime, done by Toastmaster Joel, and of course, hopefully soon to be Toastmaster Marty. And for those who did not went overtime, it's Toastmaster Maribel, Toastmaster Z, and Toastmaster Nico. And that's it for the report of for the time. I'm gonna give you back to our evaluator, Toastmaster Z.
Thank you very much, Tag Team, for the report tonight. So I would just like to give one suggestion for our program before I evaluate our dashing Toastmaster of the evening. And since we are using an online platform, it would be of great help. This is just like my personal opinion. If we could somehow share a PowerPoint or a screen where it's some sort of a program, but it would somehow help the Toastmaster of the evening with the flow of it instead of just like opening the program provided by our VP Ed, and but it would somehow give not only the Toastmaster of the evening but everyone in the meeting room a glimpse and a reading of where we are right now, and that is something that we could somehow improve in our next meeting. And for the program, the digital program, my suggestion also is to include the path of the speakers, because I just noticed that there is just like pathways level 1 and project number. It would help also the table topics, I mean the Toastmaster of the evening, and have an idea of what path the member is taking. So since everyone is already in pathways, I assume in Toastmasters, Queen City Toastmasters, so that's a good help for everyone. So let me jump with my evaluation for the Toastmaster of the evening, Toastmaster Dan. So I just added you in Facebook, so officially we're now friends. So allow me to cite some things that really inspires me of you as a Toastmaster. I do not see you as someone who's an introvert, but tonight you were able to hit the nail for your role as table. Sorry, why am I keeping on repeating table topics? Maybe because I just missed the table topics portion, but your stint as Toastmaster of the evening. So first is you went out of your way to download a virtual background to connect it with the theme tonight. So I thought you were really from the outside, but I just am happy, and I feel so good knowing that you really went out of your shell and out of your way just for us to have a feel of the theme tonight. Second is you are an eloquent speaker. Your opening made me feel that you really is a an avid fan of Jane Austen. I mean, I'm not sure how long have you been reading and following this author, but with everything that has been said by you, I can really tell that you can be a good book reviewer or a critic. So maybe that's something you would want to consider in the future. And third is that you were able to choose a theme to celebrate not only the life of Jane Austen, but her work in general. Which everyone can relate through Jane Austen's work with what we are really experiencing right now. While you were doing your ad libs, I just searched about her quotes. I mean, which reminded me of what you said earlier, that her words somehow can can connect to what we are experiencing right now in terms of family, relationship, even marriage, because nowadays husbands got no choice but to stay home and be with the wife. So that's something that the quote of Jane Austen speaks with what we are really experiencing right now. And if I may suggest one area to improve on your next stint as a Toastmaster of the evening is the long introduction. Because when you open your role, I'm really very excited to hear a story about you. But I suggest that to make the long introduction in phases, like for example this on the opening rights, you might want to give some pieces of details about Jane Austen, and then when you transition to another part of the program, you might want to add again the next introduction. In a way, it's easy for us to somehow understand who she is, her works, her life, and would follow through with all the details that you wanted to inject and give to us. And I commend you for a job well done tonight. I would like to give you this line from her book Pride and Prejudice, because this is you and your wife Toastmaster Bell's one of the favorites, I think. So your role tonight as a Toastmaster of the evening is indulge with imagination. You were able to overcome this flight instead of letting go, becoming an introvert and saying no to Toastmaster Miko. You were able to use your imagination and your passion. So congratulations, Toastmaster John, for a job well done. So back to our dashing Toastmaster of the evening.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Z, for that very amazing evaluation and suggestion. All right, so that wraps up the evaluation portion of our meeting. One thing I forgot to mention earlier is that I remember that Toastmaster Chappie mentioned that she was quite anxious to speak tonight because it's been a while since she spoke in a club meeting. That's very humbling and also refreshing to hear. For a speaker of her caliber to admit that requires courage and humility. That tells you that becoming a great speaker is not really something that's like a destination that you have to reach, but rather becoming a speaker is more like a process and habit, something that you do over and over again without end. And that's what inspires me with Toastmasters and with this club in particular, and with great speakers like Toastmaster Chappie, Mariam, Joan, John, Priya, Evelyn, Gary, and everyone in this club who's been doing this for a long time, yet still show up and put themselves out there to share their stories and keep on learning and becoming better. And that's also the reason why I did not have the compunction when I accepted this terrifying role this evening. But it's been a lot of fun. So thank you so much to everyone for joining us and for sharing with us your time, to our prepared speakers, evaluators, role takers, and especially to our guests. I know your time is super precious, so we're grateful that you chose to spend it with us this evening. And I hope you will all join us again in our regular meeting next week, April 25th. And I hope you had a great time. So let me close with two things. Number one is a picture. So let me share my screen. One moment. All right. So it's quite possible. Actually, let me give a bit of context. So these are two characters from Austen's novel Pride and Prejudice. So this is the BBC adaptation of the novel, which I highly recommend you watch. So BBC 1995 version. It's great. So this is Elizabeth Bennet sitting here. This is Mr. Darcy sitting over here to his right. And they're the hero and heroine of the novel. This is a crucial part of the story wherein Austen was so in love with her that, Mr. Darcy was so in love with Lizzie that he was about to propose to her. As you may have noticed, look at the distance between them. I think it's quite plausible that they're the first fictional characters who practiced social distancing. So we have to commend them for that. And let me snatch that quote that Toastmaster Chappie gave us earlier. And I'm going to end with that quote. there is nothing like staying at home for real comfort. So for most of us, it might be quite boring and dragging and difficult to stay at home, but it's quite necessary. So let's make the most of this. Let's learn new languages, read more books, spend time with our kids, uh, really spend time in things that matter most in life, and do away with those things that are only secondary. So stay safe, stay at home, and read Jane Austen. Let me hand you over now to our club president, Toastmaster John Ikamen, for the business portion. And if you have any announcements, Toastmaster John.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Toastmaster Dante. Once again, a round of reactions or a round of silent applause to the sensibility that Toastmaster Dante has shown tonight. And that was just truly sensational. So thank you once again, Toastmaster Dante. Now for the business portion, the last portion of our meeting, I just would like to thank, of course, the really good number of guests that we have tonight, or that we had tonight, both recurring and new guests. Thank you to Lloyd, to Renz, who had to leave, to Chris also, and of course to Marty and to Toastmaster Z, our very generous and a wonderful Toastmaster friend, for being with us again tonight. Thank you for being with us. And I just would like to ask Toastmaster Marty, how was the meeting? Any feedback that you want to give us tonight? How was the meeting?
Actually, it was better than what I had really imagined. So it's really amazing that he invited me. So before I actually become a member, at least I know how it goes, and at least I already know what an all counter is. Because when you sent me the video, kind of, so I thought the experience would be the best teacher. So it's a great thing, and it's nice to be surrounded by people like you.
Yes, it truly is. It's true that experience really is what is the best teacher here in Toastmasters. So we are very excited to have you in the next meeting and to be a future royal in the near future. So for other announcements, in terms of membership, again, for those who wish to renew, we have until April 30. That's the deadliest deadline by Toastmasters. So if you need any help transacting, please approach me or Toastmaster Jezzy. And I am positive and hopeful that we will have 2 new members coming in, Toastmaster Chris and Toastmaster Marty, in the near future as well. And for the membership interest survey, this is an aspect that we talked about last time. It's about Toastmaster goals, mentor-mentee interests, and the pathways orientation interests. This will be handed perhaps next week once Toastmaster Mika and I will be able to finalize the content. And for the DCP goals, we are currently 5 out of 10. And I'd like to encourage each and everyone to continue doing speeches and continue taking on roles, because every bit of challenge accepted to take on a role or to do a speech and building that sensibility as a Toastmaster is really gonna be a long way in helping our DCP goal. So I am very positive and hopeful that we will once again have that streak of excellence to be President's Distinguished. And I really appreciate each and everyone's support and contribution and commitment to the Queen City Toastmasters Club. So I guess that's all for my announcements. Is there anything that you would like to raise? Any member or any question? Going once? You can raise your hand. Going twice? None? All right. So Toastmaster Chappy, yes. Yes,
You're
Toastmaster
muted,
Chappy.
Chappy. You're muted. Oh, you're on mute.
There you go. So I really like I was on time. I'm sorry for being late. Like I was talking to somebody on the phone about work. Anyway, I really like the fact that our speeches have seemed to become not just rhetoric, but something that is so real and so applicable now. I like Priya's speech, how she actually encouraged us to be creative at this time. She is an entrepreneur, she's a business owner, but she takes this time not to rest, not to be on a holiday, but actually to strategize and do a business plan on how to survive at this time. And I think more than ever, not just learning how to communicate, but learning how to communicate So I appreciate the fact that we are all sharing our strategies and how we are surviving COVID crisis. Not just closing our eyes to what's going on out there, but really encouraging each other through the path on how not just to merely survive this pandemic, but really to thrive. And this is the new normal. We have to accept the fact that this may never, wearing masks is a new norm. Social distancing is a new thing that we have to learn. Washing hands every 20 minutes is something that we have to imbibe. So I like this opportunity that we all have. I hope to hear more speeches that are so filled with practical tips for us to, to make a sense or get a sense of what's going on out there, because this thing will not go out, will not, will be here for the long term, and we have to accept that fact, right? So I like all your speeches. I hope to hear more of those speeches, because this is the way to go for us, I think, right? Not just as communicators, not just as Toastmasters, but as communicators who have powerful messages that need to be amplified to everybody who cares to listen.
Thank you very
There,
much,
I said it.
Master Chappie, for your sentiments. It was really enlightening. So I believe that's a wrap for our meeting tonight.
One more thing. Can we have a picture?
All right. Oh, yes. Go ahead.
Hang on.
Sweetest smiles.
Yes.
Can you just move your head forward? Can you just move your head forward? Get the best lighting ever. Right?
Let me adjust my angle.
Good.
Look at the camera.
Look at the
All right.
camera.
1, 2, 3, smile. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you. You guys are awesome. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
By the power vested in me, I hereby call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
Night.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Miss you all.
Miss you.
Thank you.